Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate and learn from so many amazing people across the state of Mississippi who are working to make this such a great state, a better place to live, work, and play. And today we've got a terrific guest who's going to actually be with me the whole show, so we can talk about challenges and opportunities in the future. He says, if I were to describe Andy Gibson, I'd say he's responsible for feeding, fueling, and growing our state of Mississippi. He's a former state representative, farmer, an attorney. He's a regular guest on SuperTalk shows, and he's head of the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. Andy, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you, Ricky. How are you doing? And it's great to be back with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I enjoyed the little cold, snap that we had. And in fact, my son, Jordan, rushed up to the Delta so he could do a little cold bow hunting. And then we'll be there with all 4 grandkids this weekend. We're looking forward to it. It's supposed to be 80 degrees Saturday. So, which for us, you know what, I'd rather it be a little warm than super cold with the four grandkids. So we're going to make the best of it.
Good. Oh, good luck to you. Yeah, if you don't like the weather in Mississippi, hang around a little while. It's going to change. It's done it again.
Boy, this week is definitely that case. Listen, there's a lot to talk about. We'll get the latest on what you're seeing in harvest reporting and the markets and disaster relief and livestock health. There's really a lot to talk about. But one of the things we were chatting about before this show started, I asked you the question, when you think about the farming economy in Mississippi, the health of the agricultural economy in Mississippi, have you ever seen a more challenging moment in Mississippi's history than we're in right now?
Ricky, I don't think we've seen a more challenging situation nationwide than we're seeing right now, with one exception possibly back during the 80s. I remember that, and a lot of the farmers have been around a long time, remember those days, and this is comparable to that. The different reasons why we're in this situation today, a primary driver of it is the high cost of doing business. The inflation has just skyrocketed since COVID, and it's not gone down. And then the global trade situation that is a brand new game that is really changing the dynamics of agriculture here in America nationwide, and it's definitely affecting our Mississippi farmers. So these are hard times, especially for our row crop producers. There are some bright spots in agriculture as we talk here today, and we could talk about those. But I think about our soybean, cotton, corn producers here in Mississippi, and of course rice and other row crop commodities. These are the ones that are really feeling the pain due to inflation and the global trade crisis that we are experiencing right now. So always thank a farmer, but especially thank them and encourage them today.
It's a big deal. It's a really big deal for people who don't live near farming communities. It's not top of mind to them. They don't understand or appreciate what's happening. But, you mentioned inflation. One of the things about inflation is as we well know, it's easy for prices to go up. It's really hard for them to come back down again. And I'll give you a quick example. We built the house that we're in now about 14 years ago. And it was at a certain cost per square foot. To build, we're about to add we're actually not adding on, but we're adding a guest house adjacent to our house, and it's gonna be about 1,000 square feet. And to build that guest house, it's going to cost literally twice per square foot what it cost 14 years ago. And so, and the majority of that increase happened since COVID, and they're not seeing the prices go back down again. So it's a tough situation.
It is crazy. And, in most industries, the seller of the goods or services can adjust their prices to the public to offset those increases in inflation. But the farmer takes what the market offers, and it's the only one that is really in that situation where you have to take what the market is, and it's strictly supply and demand. And the supply an oversupply of product worldwide, and we're very thankful for bumper crops. We're having huge crops, not only here in Mississippi, but also across America. But when you couple that with the global trade pressures that are being brought to bear by China, who is not our friend, China is definitely not America's friend, and they have caused the lion's share of this pain for our farmers, I would say. When you couple those factors and the inability to compensate for the increases in cost, farmers are just losing money. And saw some numbers earlier this year where over 100 acres, $100 an acre loss for soybeans, and $500 an acre loss for cotton at current prices. So it's a very difficult situation. However, there are some items that are bits of good news. The recent trade deal that the president negotiated with China, that has helped. It's going to help, it looks like, for the next 3 years. But what it's not going to do is eliminate this major production that's happening now in South America, where China has financed Brazilian production of soybeans that has replaced and in fact exceeded the entire American production of soybeans. So that's a new factor again that we didn't see in the 1980s that we have to deal with today. It's a big picture challenge, and we have to think long term with the scenario that we're facing today for the good of our farmers. And we're glad for the recent wins. Looks like Congress is going to pass bits and pieces of a farm bill finally. So that's good news. But this is really a long-term structural change in agricultural economics and global trade worldwide.
Let's kind of break it down a little bit for the average person so they can understand it. And we'll start it here and we'll move it on the other side. But there are a lot of factors. People keep hearing about China. So let's take it maybe in two pieces. One is what they're strategically doing that's going to affect us. It's affecting us now. It's going to affect us significantly long term with these investments they're making in South America. They were buying soybeans. And as soon as the trade pressures happened, they felt like the best way to get to the heart of America was to go straight to the heart of our farmers, and they stopped buying soybeans. Now, this recent trade negotiation you're talking about, which is essentially 3 years, just basically gets us back up to where they were before. It's not like this raging additional purchases they're going to be doing. They're just going to buy some new stuff. You add to that this strategic problem of what's happening in South America with the inputs costing so much more. Where are we going to be in 5 years? How are we going to manage this to the ground as a nation? And is there anything the state of Mississippi can do specifically to help the farming economy in Mississippi?
Well, that's a great question, and that's exactly why we formed the Strategic Planning Committee composed of private sector leaders in the ag industry, farmers, agribusiness, financial leaders, and we're going to have our first meeting on this. We're traveling across the state, but our very first meeting will be December 11th in the Delta as we think about the future. What is Mississippi agriculture going to look like 5, 10, 20 years down the road? And coming up with opportunities and options for us as a state. One very clear idea and very clear answer is for us to bring back domestic production of everything that we produce. For so long, we have produced these products, we produced these commodities, we've shipped them wherever they go around the world, and in a lot of cases, we're buying back processed product. We could be processing that right here. We could have a soybean oil facility here in our own country. We have several of them. We should have one in Mississippi, and instead of importing soybean oil from some other country, we need to have the production of it here. The same thing can be applied to everything that we produce. Cotton. I mean, we're producing cotton that's going around the world. We've lost our textile industry because now all that's been offshored, to other countries. So we're producing the cotton, shipping it somewhere in Asia. It's produced into a T-shirt, and then we buy it back here in America. That makes no sense at all. And what I'm advocating for is really simple and common sense, and that is processing everything we produce in our state, bringing back domestic demand in a way that we don't have to rely on these foreign powers anymore. They've proven that our best interests are not their concern at all. And so, to the extent that we can increase domestic demand, find domestic demand uses, new innovative uses of these products. And I think the technology that we have today is going to allow us to, for example, bring back textile mills. That we didn't have the types of technology when all those mills were shuttered and sent overseas. We can bring it back now and produce our own products. And I can't think of a better idea than made in the USA, made in Mississippi.
We'll pick it up from right there. But you're right. I mean, it's going to take significant analysis of the current situation and then really beginning to understand what kind of transitions do we need to make as a nation, really, as it relates to farming, because, this can't be something that we just abandon. We have to find what is the strategic options for us to be highly successful going forward. We can't go forward without our farmers. And we'll continue the conversation with Andy Gibson when we come back on the other side. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with my friend, the Commissioner Andy Gibson. He's head of the Department of Agriculture and Commerce, and a really smart guy. And we're talking about farming in Mississippi and the challenges that we're facing and so on. But it is going to take, you're this. I think it's wise what you've done to begin to travel across the state of Mississippi to get input, to be thinking about what does Mississippi's strategic future look like? And if we were to encompass the entire state and get all the input to think of the most innovative possibilities and then plug those into some kind of national solution as we continue to move forward. But some of the issues like the China piece of this isn't going to go away. And before we get into a little bit deeper aspect of the strategic solutions, it occurred to me, one of the things that I personally was hoping for, and I don't know that I've seen it happen, and maybe you can update me on this, and that is, as we were doing these negotiations and helping countries around the world understand that what we wanted them to do was to begin to take down the trade barriers that they had put in place that didn't enable us to do exporting of some of our goods to their country. I thought that actually might open up some opportunities, like Europe, for example. But I don't know that I've seen that. So what's your read on trade barriers, knocking them down, and whether that's going to be part of the solution?
That's a great question. Before I dive into that, I want to tell everybody one number that I want you to remember. Before this China trade war, before China decided to go do its own thing and source its soybeans somewhere else, they were buying 52% of American soybeans. That was the market, a majority of the market of our soybeans. That's just one example. So that they have gone significantly down in terms of their purchases, and frankly, they don't have to purchase anything. So to get that win, to get that trade deal for the next 3 years it's a lifeline, but it's not a long-term solution. And we have to take down the trade barriers for our products, not only for our commodities, row crops, but of all the products that we produce. And I have literally traveled the world. I've been with USDA. I've been with the state of Mississippi, the Mississippi Development Authority, and other folks who travel the world to showcase our products. And I can tell you that the president and his team are working really hard to get those trade barriers knocked down. Some of them have come down. There have been some big wins in Australia. There have been some big wins in Asia. Those are going to take time to bear fruit, to show fruit, I should say. But we are hitting, something of a brick wall in places like Europe. They've got a European Union that governs their continent, which is ridiculous to my way of thinking, but that's what it is. And they have regulations in place that are directly affecting our second largest product in Mississippi, and that's wood products. So they're saying we're not going to buy your wood products if you're in a, quote, deforestation situation. Well, we don't have a deforestation situation in Mississippi. They might have that in Brazil, but we have more trees today than we had 100 years ago. And they're applying these crazy environmentalist-led regulations to blocking our products, not for any not for the lack of need for our products, but trying to regulate what we can do with our land. And I will predict that over the next year, and I'm planning to go on some trade missions in 26 as well with the administration to some key areas. One of those, to my way of thinking, and the largest population, the largest market that we can tap that could possibly replace China is India. I've been to India 4 times. They are now the world's largest population, the largest democracy, and they need our products. They are going to need food products, fiber products, and so that is what I view as a very high priority for us as a country. And I know the administration feels the same way. But those barriers are being chipped away at. They're not coming down fast enough. But let's face it, President Trump's been in office since January. It's November. There have been some wins, but they're going to take longer periods of time to get the real results that we're going to have. And as I said earlier, my own view is we don't need to depend solely on foreign countries and foreign markets. When we can have value-added products in this country for our own people, American-made, Mississippi-made, we live it and breathe it. Genuine Mississippi, that's our official state brand. Everything grown, raised, crafted, and made in Mississippi, and we can do it and supply our own needs. And actually, there's a strategic reason we better do that, because the food production of America is shifting to the Southeast, and Mississippi is right here in the heart of the Southeast for the future. For the next 20 years, we have the water. We're going to have the food production that America is going to have for the next decades ahead. And we can lead on this. We will lead on this as we think about it and plan strategically toward that goal.
Listen, a couple of things. First of all, Andy Chapman, does that ring a bell with you? Andy Chapman he owns a company called Prime Pecan. Yeah. Well, I had him on my show recently.
Yeah. We've been together in India and other parts of the world promoting Mississippi products. Fantastic.
Good for him. Good. Well, he was in India when he joined me on the show, and he had just met 16,000 pounds of pecans in India from a bunch of different providers. But he's created this wonderful company, as you well know. And he says he's only begun to scratch the surface as restaurants in India begin to take in his fresh pecans. And there's such an energy for his product. And it's just an incredible story. And the way he's built this marketing effort behind it and whatever. It's just a small, but I think powerful example of what can happen if you open up the markets in a place like India. I mean, the potential in India, Andy, is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. I've been there, as I said, 4 times. And the people there, they do love America. And like some parts of the world I've been that really don't like Americans, the Indian people love America. We both fought and beat the British government to gain our independence. And so we have that in common, among other things. But Andy's a great guy, great company. We can take that same type of innovation and market our products to folks who are willing to pay a premium for it around the world. The reason Indians love pecans is they're a health food. They're viewed, and they are, in fact, a very healthy product. We have the same thing in the way of blueberries, our sweet potatoes, superfoods right here, our official state fruit, official state vegetable, and we can really ramp up our marketing efforts, and we have done that, as Andy's illustrated, around the world. At the same time, we can build up our domestic production. I believe we need to process everything that we grow in Mississippi. Everything that we produce, whether it's sweet potatoes, blueberries, pecans, we need to have processing facilities that are able to package it, store it, ship it. And when we do that, we will take what's already the state's largest industry, which is agriculture, and we can double the economic impact of it. That makes good common sense to me, and everybody I talk with around Mississippi thinks it's a good idea. That's my idea for the future of our state's largest industry, and it'll be a blessing not only for Mississippi but for our entire country and the world.
Listen, I spent the latter part of my career for Knight Ridder, the company that used to own the Sun Herald, working on I co-led the strategic planning effort for the entire company. And I remember going through this process because the reality of what was unfolding in front of us as it related to kind of the digital tsunami, it was becoming very clear. Now, that was in 2005. It's interesting. The final report out was the week Hurricane Katrina hit, unbelievably. But the smartphone didn't come about until 2 years later. So, this game-changing thing that Steve Jobs unveiled in 2007, we had an idea that we were headed that direction, and it was actually part of our plan. But one of the interesting things about being involved in that effort, and then later in my career doing a similar thing, working with Advanced Condé Nast, was when you're involved in a process like that, like you're involved with now, going around the stage, developing a strategic plan for Mississippi farmers and how that might plug into a national framework, is that you go into process, you really are looking for an amazing idea, something that really could literally change things. You're not just going through the process just to get everybody aligned and do your current analysis and educate people, which all those things are really important. But what you're actually hoping for is that an idea will come out of this that you go, holy mackerel. Now, that is a transformative idea. You hope for that, don't you?
We do. And actually, we've been doing a little bit of that with this seafood task force that I'm a part of with General Spraggins on the coast. Thanks to the legislature for passing this labeling law where people can know, Mississippians can know if you're buying domestic seafood or foreign seafood. 90%. I mean, this shows you how much we've come to depend on foreign interests. 90% of the seafood in this country is imported foreign seafood. And it has decimated our local fishermen. It's decimated our commercial seafood industries around not only Mississippi, but in America. So this is an opportunity, it seems to me, that we can help bring that back. And some innovative ideas about, I've seen some ideas that are really interesting about fish farming. We'll talk more about it. Looks like in just a minute.
Hey, let's pick it up. Let's actually pick it up right there because it's all about disruption. And we're in a disruptive moment right now, just in general, across just about every single industry. We'll refer to that here in just a second and get specific about seafood and farmers when we come back with Andy Gibson. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We have Commissioner Andy Gibson with us, and we're talking about agriculture. And we also talked about, as we were going to break, the seafood effort that came as a result of tremendous focus on bringing credibility back into domestic seafood in Mississippi. And he's been working with Joe Spraggins from down here at the Department of Marine Resources to think about that. But and I'll give you an opportunity to be, you can expand on that if you want to, Andy. But let me just throw one other thing in here. I had Ashley Edwards on recently, and we had a deep conversation about the blue economy and what's involved in the blue economy. When you start to kind of break it down and think about things like the impact of AI on business and industry in this country, and sort of the global competitive situation we have around technology, et cetera. There's very little rest for the weary right now because, you're dealing with agricultural transformation. Everybody else should be dealing with industrial, transformation. We actually likened it to, after Katrina, the coast, it came back. But a lot of the dollars that came here, the billions of dollars that came here, were really tied to recovery. So, the disruption that we experienced was really related to a massive disaster. Now that we don't have that, now what do we do going forward? A lot of challenges related to that. But anyway, it is a disruptive moment we live in right now, isn't it?
It really is. AI, artificial intelligence, is already changing our world. And I get reports on this, study it, and you're looking at a situation that potentially, in the next 5 to 10 years, you could have a large percentage. I've heard some high percentages of jobs that are being replaced by AI, and that's a concern. It's not going to go away, but we have to prepare for that. Two things that I know that will never go away, that we'll always have a need for. Number one is we got to eat. We got to have our agriculture. We have to have our farmers. And that's why we have to find a way to keep farming strong and growing here in Mississippi and across America. And the second is healthcare. I mean, people are always going to be sick and always going to need healthcare, and that's going to be something that's going to be a long-term part of our job program here in the state of Mississippi, and making sure people are healthier. And actually, those two things go together very well. Eating healthy foods makes you a healthier person. But on the coast, I had the privilege to tour the Two Crackers Oyster Company, the operation out there where they're raising oysters, and got to sample some recently. And that's just one example of bringing back domestic production. And we're going to have to do that across all facets of our food, fiber, and even wood product production. So we have what we need as Americans. We need to feed ourselves and take care of our people first. And then we can actually be well positioned to have the value added to our products as we market them to other nations and other foreign interests around the world. We want them to buy our products, but we don't want to be totally dependent upon them. That's where we have to get, it seems to me.
Hey, listen, that above the bottom aquaculture of oysters is a really cool approach. And what's interesting is that the salinity gets messed up for some reason. They can actually move it. And and by the way, it's a really, really good oyster, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I had not experienced that before, but you ride out there in a boat, grab the flotation equipment and flip them in the boat, and you got oysters there. I mean, and we're doing that in Mississippi. I can only imagine what the potential for that as we look to the future. So it's exciting. It is an exciting time. It's a world-changing time that we're living in, but we can't be paralyzed by that. We have to prepare, plan, and get a direction for the future. That's where we're headed.
Well, see, one of the things is coming back to that number that you didn't mention a number on AI, but when I do my research on it and apply the numbers to Mississippi, the number that I see is as high as 30% of the jobs will be impacted in Mississippi. I don't know what kind of number you're looking at, but whatever it is. Yeah, go ahead.
20, 25. I've heard 20. I've heard 25%. Who knows? I mean, that's very high. It's a lot of people, and we need to be concerned about our people and planning for the future of our people in this state.
Josh, I think that's one of the reasons why the efforts by both public universities and private universities to be part of this AI initiative to really integrate AI into their course learnings. And I think we were one of the, if not the first in the nation to go that level. I think we've got to do that in a big way. I think it screams economic development. It screams at us that we've got to stay focused on bringing new industry here, new advanced manufacturers here, innovative whatever here. We got to be focused on increasing the number of jobs, because, as you well know, if you were to kind of plot this all out, as those jobs begin to get impacted, we need to see a representative growth and additional jobs to offset that. And, you can be an economic engine like Coastal Mississippi, where Chevron and Ingalls and Bollinger, the shipbuilding industry and government and Spence Space Center and all the things that we have to look forward to from a tourism point of view. But if we're not doing something to diversify that, to growing new, building new mega sites and whatever we've got to do to get more aggressive from an economic development point of view, if we're not doing that, Andy, I'm deeply concerned that we're not moving fast enough. And these are the kind of things you're thinking about, I'm sure.
They are. They are. That's why it's a really obvious place to begin. I mean, you kill two birds with one stone. If we can bring back our domestic processing of our food products here, instead of buying, green beans from Mexico, we don't even have a cannery for that anymore in this part of the country. Bring that back. And use the technology that we have today to help bring that back, support our farmers, give them a new market, really, a more value to their product, and it'll be a win-win. It'll help the agriculture situation at the same time as we position ourselves for the future economy that is coming with AI.
Listen, I've listened to Scott Bessent, who seems to be very sincere about his understanding of the issue. In fact, I think he says he's a farmer. Then on top of that, Brooks Rawlings, when I pay attention to her, she seems to be very bright and seems to really understand it. But the kind of it's a challenge because we have all the division in our country and all these competing objectives and all this noise, man, just noise everywhere you look. Do you have confidence that we're able to keep the focus on the situation at hand? I mean, this situation here and now for not just Mississippi farmers, but the nation's farmers. I mean, that's got to be on your mind a lot. But I mean, I do have the sense that Brooks gets it.
Absolutely, she gets it. She's a very, very smart woman. She understands. She's from Texas. She grew up on a farm, and she understands that agriculture is the backbone of our economy. In Mississippi, she understands it's the biggest part of our economy. And so the importance of keeping agriculture healthy and strong and growing cannot be overstated. I am confident that we can keep our eye on that ball, and I'm encouraged by this end of the shutdown that just is getting done. Hopefully it's accomplished now, and at least for a little while. But in that package, they included the funding of the agriculture programs, the Farm Bill, and USDA. So, as well as the Food and Drug Administration. These are key components that have to be maintained as top priority, especially in these days. We cannot depend on other countries to feed us. We should never be in that position. We need to reverse this agriculture trade deficit, produce our own food for our own people, and also export it to folks who need it around the world. And they're keeping their eye on the ball, and I'm very confident and look forward to continue working with them on that in the days ahead.
You know, I've had the opportunity because I lease land from the Dunn family, and I spent time with Clinton Dunn, who's the president of Delta Council, and Travis Dunn. I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to spend time with them and learn from what they're going through. And through them, I meet other farmers and have lots of conversations. And, you know, they have had this particular year in particular, a good farming year. And it's sad really to think that normally when they have a year like they had this year, that it would just be an incredibly successful year. And of course, that on the heels of Delta Grain, or that's the new name, but actually we need to talk about that because of the company that we talked about before the show started. We'll come back to that in the next segment. But it's unfortunate that when you have so much success that they're putting all of their focus on yield. Yield is the only way they're going to squeeze out a penny. That's terrible to have to think that way, isn't it?
It is. You know, the prices are depressed for row crops, and they are because of that global trade situation. They're depressed nationwide, as a matter of fact. So their only glimmer of hope is let's have a bumper crop here and make up for that. But in the economics that we've been dealt here from the global trade situation, it's almost impossible to make that up. So farmers are hurting. Congress did a good thing last year, helped get some disaster relief passed, and I expect that'll happen again this year. But in the meanwhile, I want to thank them for getting this shutdown brought to an end. We've got to get that done and keep agriculture focused to priority one.
When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Andy Gibson. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. Really appreciate Commissioner Andy Gibson joining me today so we can have a really deep conversation about the plight of farmers, not just in Mississippi, but in our nation. So we got three things we're going to talk about in kind of rapid form. The grain elevator situation. I want to ask you real quick about cattle and chickens. But before we do that, recently a grain elevator company from Nebraska called Hanson Mueller lost their license. They had an elevator in Louisiana, and unfortunately was in a situation where they couldn't pay Mississippi farmers. And what I hear from my farmer friends is that you reached out to them, to Mississippi farmers, to check on them, and really have been paying attention to this, because we all know a couple of years ago we had Express Grain. It's now Delta Grain. They're doing really well based on what I hear. But Express Grain was in a situation where they left a lot of farmers in Mississippi holding the bag, and it was a very disgraceful turn of events. But what's the situation with this Nebraska company?
Yeah, Hanson Mueller is a grain dealer based in Nebraska. We got word a couple of weeks ago they were losing their license in Nebraska. I got on the phone, called Nebraska, talked to the folks up there, my counterpart, as well as the Public Service Commission that regulates them. Then I got on the phone with the CEO of that company, and they assured me that there had been a misunderstanding and they were going to get their license reinstated. They had a line of credit sufficient to pay everybody. And it turns out they did that. They did get reinstated with a commitment to pay our farmers. So not only that, we talked to our farmers here locally to find out how much everybody's owed. And we're riding herd on them to make sure they get paid. I think they owe our farmers a total of $2.5 million. But it's another situation where the tough farm economy, it has a trickle down effect to a lot of different industries, and we don't want what happened with Express Grain ever to happen again. Although Express Grain was a fraudulent situation, it's very much top of my mind when we think about grain dealers and making sure our farmers get paid. We need to update our laws on that. Our laws are woefully insufficient. $1 million bond might have been enough in 1970 to cover the farmers. It's not enough today. That's the maximum.
Let's get some new legislation on that. And by the way, I commend you on reaching out to Mississippi farmers. We got less than 4 minutes. What's the latest on chickens and cattle?
Well, chicken, poultry, still our number one industry. Poultry and eggs, number one industry in Mississippi, and it's doing very well. I mean, the demand is there. The challenge that farmers have had in poultry is obviously the bird flu, high-path avian influenza, and a lot of research being done on that, best practices. Our farmers are doing what they need to do, and our egg production is back. We are the home of the largest egg production company in the world, Cal-Maine Foods, and they're back and doing well. And then our cattle. Cattle is probably the bright spot in agriculture today. It's interesting to think about why supply and demand. Due to the droughts out west, a lot of the cattle were sold off, and we have the lowest herd size in America since like the 1940s, I think 1949. So our cattlemen that are still producing are doing very well. They're actually being profitable for the first time, and I'm one of those in a long time, and we're thankful for that. But again, we're building back our American herd. We need to take care of our Americans first, and as we build back our herd over the next 2 years, we'll probably get back to that level. I'm really pleased with what the president has just announced, that he's investigating these foreign-owned packing companies that have really come in here and taken over our meat industry. So when you see the high prices in the grocery store, that's coming from the packing industry, not the farmers. So I commend our farmers, encourage everyone to keep on farming, keep on raising those cattle, and we're gonna turn the corner and keep agriculture strong for the next generation as well.
Listen, man, when I think about this, we got 2 minutes left, so we don't have much time to talk about it. We think of what globalists did to just change the security of our nation, literally. With so much being manufactured and done outside this country, allowing the Chinese to come in here and buy land, for example. So much, we have been asleep at the wheel as a nation, haven't we?
I'm writing an op-ed right now on pushing back against foreign influence. We've had enough of it. We had too much of it. Started when, as you said, they began, not buying our products. Then they began to take over our industries. Smithfield Foods, the largest pork producers now, is a China-owned company now. Our meat packer companies have been bought out by folks in Brazil. So we got to back up, push back against this, and end the foreign influence that's taken hold in our country. And it makes good sense for us to do that and put Americans first, put Mississippians first. And when we do that, our future will be bright. And I'm glad to see a president that is doing that as well.
Hey, one of the farms I used to lease sold for $2,000 more per acre than they would have expected to sell it for to some firm out of Europe that my son, who's a lawyer, believes was nothing more than a shell company for the Chinese. And we've seen that happen over and over and over again. And when these outrageous, you come to a farmer that's struggling and they get offered this outrageous price for their thing or for their land, they dive quickly and take the money, and that we don't need that.
No, it's gone too far. The legislature took a baby step to try to help with that, but it's not far enough. We got to end the foreign control of our farmland. If we don't, we'll be depending on somebody else for our food, fiber, and shelter, and we will never let that happen.
No, I'm with you there, man. Andy Gibson, it's been a pleasure to spend some time. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. God bless. Enjoyed it.
You bet. God bless you as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.